Before a character even opens their mouth to speak, you can often infer a great deal of information simply from their design. Whether that's through a myriad of hairstyles, the appearance of cat ears, or an absurd number of bows, this category implores you to decipher the story that the animators are telling before any story actually takes place. Here are the nominees for Best Character Design of 2024.
願いは到底捨てて来たぞ 死体のコスプレ？
幽霊です。こんな健康的な死体ある？
健康的なこれアイスさん？
ああ、リップの色が違う。
And your winner for both the public and jury vote is Delicious in Dungeon.
I'm going to play the kind of dumb, no production knowledge thing here because I'm honestly kind of surprised at this result. I mean, Dunmeshi is great. I love the show. It's very creative and visually looks great. But the character design in and of itself to me is kind of simple. I mean, it's kind of stereotypical, generic, medieval D&D kind of design, right? Could you explain exactly what's so appealing about it from a character design standpoint?
With character design, it's kind of a weird one. Like some years it's clearly like, okay, we are judging the character design itself. Other years we're, as a production award, we're judging the way the character design is used. In this case, Delicious in Dungeon, it's an adaptation of Ryokukui's manga work. So I disagree that they're generic. I think there's a huge amount of appeal and joy that you don't really get from most fantasy designs. I mean, most fantasy designs these days are kind of in the isekai sphere, but there's kind of roundedness. And as you said in your intro, like you take one look at them and you get exactly what they're about. But also, not just we're looking at Ryokukui's work in the manga, but then we're looking at the character designer from Trigger who created versions of them that could be animated in all the different like both serious and wacky ways that we see them in the anime. And that's kind of why I wanted to be a part of this category this year in particular, because I think we got so many great nominees. But we're kind of looking at how do character designers take these images from the manga and turn them into something that has like a huge amount of appeal. And because character designers in anime are basically creating the scaffold for how they can be animated. Without a great character designer like we have on Delicious in Dungeon, we couldn't get all those brilliant scenes, because the animators would be looking and going, how do I move this character?
I somehow always manage to forget that character design is, when it comes to adaptations, like one of the things that you have to strike a nice balance between, right? Of making something that's conducive to animation while also preserving the original feel and art style that people love from the manga.
I would say from the jury perspective, that's actually one of like the big strengths of Delicious in Dungeon 2 that you said, Canipa, the scaffolding. Like it has that signature Trigger kind of malleability to the character designs. You can do so much with them. You might not even notice like Marcel has her hair done differently in like almost every single episode. It's very impressive.
And Eggman, something else I was thinking about as well. I mean, Delicious in Dungeon, obviously, part of the appeal is all of these fantastical creatures and whatnot. I think Yuto Kaneko did the monster design. Was that a factor when it came to ranking it as well?
Definitely, yeah. I think the strength of the Dunmeshi monster designs is that it's a combination of like really solidly done traditional fantasy creatures, but then also brand new creatures that have their own flair to them and that you've never seen before that move in strange ways and animate really well.
Yeah, I keep thinking that this should have been like some collaboration with Dungeons and Dragons because it is this is the most appeal aside from like Baldur's Gate 3 or something that I've seen from that kind of Dungeons and Dragons base, and it takes it in just really wild and creative ways, and it's the expressions on every character, like including the monsters. I'm glad that we are accounting for those monster designs in this category because they are so stand out. Doing them all in 2D as well, which means that they can kind of just fit like blend into the world, and like we don't have that case where it's like a typical trigger character design. Not to say this is a typical trigger character design, it's a bit different from what used to, but that kind of rounded, fun expression, like expressive model. And I'm so glad that we didn't have that next to like some realistic 3D or anything. Like all those dragons, all these bizarre creatures, they all just like blend in.
It's really fitting that the public is able to recognize this as well, because a lot of the production categories, there's a kind of a disconnect between the jury and the public, and not necessarily due to like lack of knowledge or anything. But how about some of the other entries? What do you think stands out over here?
I am confused by Puniru is a kawaii slime, and I'd like to hear what the jury saw in that. Like, because it's number 2 for the jury, and I mean, I had 3 horses in this race. I was like, Oshinoko, Apothecary Diaries. Actually, no, apparently 4. Oshinoko, Delicious in Dungeon, Apothecary Diaries, or Too Many Losing Heroines. But Puniru being number 2 up there is really confusing me.
Yeah, Puniru, the show is called Puniru. It's about Puniru, and Puniru is the reason that's on this list. She's this slime that's made from borax and starch that can change shapes. Her base design is really cute, but multiple times in episode we get these transformation scenes. She turns into idols and casino dealers. We have evil Puniru. We have dear Puniru, and the like comedy that they're able to integrate with her character is really good.
Every year, the jury introduces me to something that I've just never heard before. Like, I like to think I'm tuned in, but then, like, I suddenly see Puniru is a kawaii slime, and I'm like, how have I missed this? The number
Been out of the
2
game
character
too long,
design.
old man.
I have.
Life has softened you.
It was new to me when I joined the category as well. It was one that came in like people weren't really talking about it right away, but I was laughing out loud specifically because of the work that went into Puniru's character design. They also use some other cool techniques, like they use thick lines to kind of accentuate the comedy in certain scenes. There's just a lot of cool techniques in it.
I'm really happy that the jury gave Apothecary Diaries the shout out as number 3 here. Didn't seem to do so well in public, but Apothecary Diaries is just all about those looks that Mau Mau gives. Like, just because as the perspective character, you spend so much time with her, and it like so much of the story is just told through like the looks that she gives other characters and scenes. And yeah, I'm really happy that I got a shout out there.
I mean, I really like all the different outfits she's in as well. I mean, like
Totally.
when you talk about silhouette, right? Like just the image of like the court dress and that one infamous scene where she looks at the camera and says it's poison, and it's just so
Yeah.
striking. I think part of that is the design, right?
I think the character designs also do a really great job of establishing the inner court, outer court dynamics. Like you have your 4 concubines, and all of their ladies in waiting have dresses that are color coded to the concubine that they serve, and then there's also this extra language that's layered on top of that with accessories. There's one episode that talks about it specifically where Mao Mao is given hairpins, and then so that you start to pay attention to that, and it really just builds really well into a cohesive package.
I am wondering why the jury went for Oshinoko season 2 so far low down.
I think that I don't want to speak for everybody, but it's Oshinoko this is for season 2, and a lot of the designs are carried over from that. So we could talk about the same things again, and that's not to say that they're worse, but we already talked about it last year. So what we tried to do for it was focus on the new characters, the new designs, and we were able to do that with the stage play that came through here. And mostly what we focused on was like how the characters that they played and their designs kind of led into their own inner struggles and turmoils. Ultimately, we didn't feel like it just held up to the rest of the nominees. I think we had a really strong year, to be honest. So
Yeah.
All right, well, there you have it. Character designer for Dungeon Meshi, once again, is insert name here. It's
It's
Ryuko
Naoki
Kiwi.
Takeda.
Oh, no,
Ryoko
Naoki
Kiwi
Takeda
for the manga
is the
and
mangaka.
Naoki Takeda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
fix that in post. But hope you can check out their work and hope that you pay attention to this kind of maybe oft neglected aspect of production. And on with the show.